Almighty God, we pray for your blessing upon this council, help and prosper its work for advancement and benefit of its people, so that peace and happiness, unity and justice may be established amongst us all. Amen. Please be seated. Manningham Council acknowledges the Wurundjeri Wurrung people as the traditional owners of lands and waterways, now known as Manningham. Council pays respects to elders past, present and emerging, and values the ongoing contribution to enrich and appreciate the cultural heritage of Manningham. Council acknowledges and respects Australia's First Peoples as traditional owners of lands and waterways across country and encourages reconciliation between all. Manningham Council also values the contribution made to Manningham over the years by people of diverse cultures and backgrounds. I welcome all members of the public who have joined us in person and online to observe tonight's proceedings. I'd like to advise that tonight's meeting is being audio and video recorded. All care will be taken to maintain your privacy. However, as a visitor in the public gallery, your presence may be recorded. By remaining in the gallery, it is assumed your consent is given in the event that your voice and or image is broadcast by Council. As with all Council meetings, we are taking questions from the public and encourage you to submit your questions in accordance to our normal practice. At this stage, we will continue to take questions from members of the public who do not feel comfortable in attending the meetings in person. In these circumstances, our CEO will read out the questions. A response will be provided where we have the information to hand. If we're unable to provide a meaningful response, we will take your question on notice and provide a response in writing. We will deal with a maximum of 2 questions per person and 2 questions on any one item or issue. If you have more than 2 questions, please submit those additional questions in writing through the normal channels. Council meetings are conducted in accordance with our governance rules. I will introduce each item of business as listed on the agenda, calling it by number and by reading the title. I will then call for a mover and a seconder of the motion on the item before opening any debate. Only councillors are able to join the debate on any item. Item number 2, apologies and requests for leave of absence. Councillors, we have received an apology from Councillor Damonte. Item number 3, prior notification of conflict of interest. No prior notifications of conflict of interest have been received. Councillors, would anyone like to give a notice of a conflict of interest? Thank you. None received. Item number 4, confirmation of minutes. Do I have a mover? Councillor Laura Mayne.
I move that the minutes of the council meeting held on the 26th of July 2022 be confirmed.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Chen. Let's just put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Item number 5, presentations. Commonwealth Games 2022 acknowledgement. I'd like to acknowledge Warrandyte athlete Abby Caldwell, who recently won a bronze medal in the final of the women's 1500 metre at the Commonwealth Games held in Birmingham. This is the first of hopefully many international medals for this talented 21-year-old athlete. Congratulations on your achievement, Abby. Yes. Very proud. Items number 6. Joint letter 6.1. Joint letter seeking financial assistance to the upgrade of the Yarra Old Grammarians Women's Football Team Club facilities. Do I have a mover? Councillor Mayne.
I move that the joint letter with 40 signatories seeking financial assistance to upgrade the Yarra Old Grammarians Women's Football Team Club facilities be received and referred through to the appropriate officer for consideration.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor Mayne? Councillor Goff? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you. Item number 7, public question time.
There are no questions, Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go straight to item number 8, admissions of urgent business. Do I have a mover? Councillor Conlon.
So I'd like to move that the Council admits for consideration the following urgent business item at item 15 of this meeting, that being item 15.1, MAV State Council motions.
Thank you, Councillor. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lightbody. It's pure procedural, so we'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you. That will go on to 15.1. Item number 9, planning permit applications, and there are no planning permit applications. Straight to item number 10, city planning and community. There are no city planning and community items. Item 11.1. Item 11 is city services. 11.1. End of financial year 2021-2022 Capital Works Status Report. Mover, Councillor Lang.
The recommendation be adopted.
A seconder, that would be Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Lang, you have the floor.
Thank you. Look, I'll just go through a few details because they're worth notable parts in the report, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank officers for updating us and keeping us in track with our Council Capital Works program. I'd also like to congratulate Manningham Council officers for managing and delivering so much of our Capital Works program in the last year under the conditions coming out of our COVID pandemic. I just want to bring to light that the Capital Works program sort of consists of two main things. It looks at our new assets and spaces, but it also looks at the change of use or function or layout of existing assets and spaces. Things like roads, open spaces, local parks, activity centres, and of course there's some new drainage infrastructure there as well. If I pull out some of our statistics, in this financial year, 34% of the expenditure was used to create livable places, 20% was used to promote healthy communities, and 25% was spent on creating resilient environments. And I think that's notable as a good outcome for our community. Some of those notable projects are Petty's Reserve redevelopment, Tom Kelly Athletics Track, the reconstruction of Nees Road Park Orchards, Morris and Montgomery Reserve upgrades as well. When we look at the 83% expenditure of quite a big $53 million capital works budget, we look at the 204 projects, and out of those 179 were completed, with 25 that have been committed, delayed but then moved forward. I just think that it's worth noting, benchmarking compared to other councils, that we've actually done quite well. Other councils have had significant project falls and have also had, capital works programs that they've had to cancel, and I'm pleased to advise that we have not been in that position here at Manningham. So I think it's well done to our officers and our organisation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Thank you, Mayor. So COVID obviously made it very difficult. So I think to actually get 44 million spent was a good effort in the circumstances. The $6.3 million carry forward means that this year's $65 million capital works budget will be a record. And we have achieved savings of $2.6 million, so we haven't carried forward the full underspend. Councillor Lang mentioned Petty's, which has been our biggest project. It was great to see a full house for the Brunswick Juventus Macedon United blockbuster game a couple of Saturdays ago, with a couple of hundred people there. And also on the same day, Tom Kelly hosted the AGSV, the Association of Grammar Schools of Victoria meeting on the Saturday, which is schools from all over Melbourne coming, regionally attracted to our resurfaced athletics track. So it was great to see that, with hundreds of people there watching. In terms of the carry forwards, the notables are Tram Merlin Road Project, 1.15 million, Deep Creek Reserve, 487,000 carry forward, but it is underway, so the baseball pavilion will be delivered. Same with Hepburn Reserve, a 750,000 carry forward, but under construction now, will be delivered this year. And we did have a budget of 661,000 for major projects, community facilities, which we didn't spend at all. And that's the fact that we put that budget in there signals that we're serious in preparing for some very major projects going forward. We have, over the 10-year plan, allocated 550 million, which is a record, and probably a couple of $100 million of that is unallocated, I think, if you looked at it. So there's lots of things to choose from, whether it's libraries, aqua arena, netball, highball, more road projects. There's always a large demands, and that's an important decision for the next, for this council and coming council, is what do you populate that currently unallocated couple of $100 million in a $550 million 10-year plan. So I look forward to the record spend next year, and thanks to the officers for all the hard work in delivering that $44 million spend this year, which was very good in the circumstances.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. 11.2, Proposed Recreation and Sport Advisory Committee. Mover? Councillor Laura Mayne.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor Laura Mayne.
Thank you, Mayor. After the formation of lots of our other recent committees, we are introducing a new Recreation and Sport Committee, which will run for a 2-year trial. We are introducing this so we can have this committee so we can have a focused and municipal-wide analysis of rec and sport in Manningham, as well as representing to our community our commitment to this area. The purpose of this committee is, like all of our committees, will be to provide strategic advice to Council, particularly in the case of implementation, monitoring and evaluation of Manningham's Active for Life Recreation Strategy 2010 to 2025. For members of our committee who are wishing to apply, you must live, work or study in Manningham and not be presently president, secretary or treasurer of a sporting club to avoid bias. We are aiming to have an all-rounded, diverse group of up to 15 people who are passionate about sport and rec, intertwined with our local community and are willing to volunteer their time. The councillors appointed to this will be Councillor Andrew Conlon as the chair, Councillor Stephen Mayne as deputy chair and Councillor Lang as the other councillor rep. Overall, I'm excited to see the formation of this committee and very optimistic about the contributions it will provide, as rec and sport is vital to community connection, can do great things for community inclusion and support, and is key to our physical and mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Goff?
Nothing really to add.
Can I have your mic on, please? Thank you.
Nothing to really add to that, except for the fact that there is an expression of interest going out, and I just hope that we do send information out to all of our sporting clubs and to other organisations and advertise it as best we can, because we no longer have a local paper that people can look at things on, so getting through to our community is very difficult. So I'm sure that Part D endorsed the EOI process. We can do that as publicly as possible to get as many applicants as possible, candidates.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? So you're putting that to a vote, or your other speakers? I did see your hand up first, though, Councillor Mayne. It's not up anymore. Councillor Lang, other speakers?
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to say that I'm quite excited about a Recreation and Sport Advisory Committee. Councillor Laura Mayne rightly said that it's about our Active for Life recreation strategy. And in that we talk about some really important aspects of recreation and sports governance. Principles about keeping healthy and resilient citizens, about improving our physical outcomes and having inclusive recreation and sport. And I'm really excited that this is modelled on diversity and about having friendship within our recreation and sport. And it really is about meeting that daily challenge, that daily physical challenge that we have, and offering choice to our Manningham residents in the recreation and sport that they do, both passive and active. And I really look forward to the expression of interest process, finding people that are willing to work strategically, to look at our policies, to come up with communication, to give us input into our facilities and the best use of our facilities and how they're fit for purpose. And I think this is a really exciting new adventure, and I hope the trial goes really well.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other councillors? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the officers who've worked up this report, particularly Helen Napier, Heather Callaghan and Robert Morton, who are sort of the direct workers in the rec team. Traditionally, we've relied on the officers to do most of the direct heavy lifting, and there's a lot of engagement and policies. It can be quite a fraught area dealing with clubs, competing interests, demands, season changes, etc. So we're being a little bit brave at some levels, putting councillors into what can be quite a politicised process of managing big sporting clubs. And I think it's noteworthy that we have gone for the name recreation and sport as opposed to the traditional sport and rec. And that is sending a message that this is not just about cricket, footy and soccer and the big sports. This is actually broader than that. It's about the cyclists, it's about the golfers, the dog walkers, the personal trainers. It's everyone who likes to recreate and participate in sport in Manningham. It is an interesting policy that we've banned incumbent treasurers, presidents and secretaries. And I'd probably send a message out there that we're certainly not banning past presidents, treasurers and secretaries. And it would be great to get people who can go across multiple areas. So someone who might have been a president of a cricket club but is also a mad keen cyclist and a regular swimmer, who's got the broad perspective, as opposed to having the cricket person, the soccer person, the footy person, and everyone just sort of pushing their narrow interest. So that's partly why we've gone for that design. 15 is a good number. We will be able to get good diversity in all areas. And I think the 2-year trial is sensible, so we can see how it goes, and the next council can decide whether to continue with it. And I just also point out that we used to have more community involvement in recreation when we had the Manningham Recreation Association, which will be discussed later in the meeting, but that ceased operating pretty much in 2012. So since then it has been a much more officer-driven process. We've had terrific sports forums and good engagement, but I think a little bit of formal quarterly meetings with a well-structured, well-chosen committee will just improve the overall transparency, engagement and operations of this very important area of council's traditional operations.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? That's unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 12, experience and capability. 12.1, advocacy priorities for state election November 2022. Do I have a mover?
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Councillor Stephen Mayne. Seconder?
I second the motion.
Councillor Lang. Councillor Stephen Mayne, you have the floor.
Okay, so this is something we haven't necessarily done in previous state elections, where we've worked up a report nominating 12 specific areas that we would like all contestants in the forthcoming state election to focus on and ideally commit to. So we deliberately not ranked them 1 to 12. It's like not having a favourite child. All of these 12 items are equally very important. I'm just going to mention a couple that I think would be great to see. So the duplication of Templestowe Road between Thompson's Road and Bridge Street, that was a sort of a promise that came out of the Supreme Court settlement over the North East Link. But it's a separate department doing it, and so we're really keen to lock that one in, hence it's on our list. Improved sporting facilities for Templestowe College, which is in my ward, in Ruffy ward. I noticed that Matthew Guy recently did commit the $15 million for a 3-court basketball facility, and they've got 1,250 kids there operating in 1 court with 130 kids doing the specialist basketball program, and the school spending $130,000 a year busing to our facility at Templestowe Leisure Centre because they just haven't got the capacity. So East Doncaster and Doncaster have both got 2-court indoor facilities with associated soccer athletics, and this would just be matching that at Templestowe College, which has gone from 250 kids to 1,250 kids in a decade. Absolutely booming, now zoned, massive basketball program, and so it would be great to see the government also matching that. Another one I particularly like is the reduction in maximum opening hours for poker machines. Victoria has the slackest rules in the country, where they can be open 20 hours a day and they can choose when they close. So there's 6 pokies venues open at Manningham at 2 o'clock in the morning every day. And our motion is calling for mandatory closure between 2 and 8 a.m. and a maximum of 18 hours a day. But a 6-hour mandatory close, except for the casino, would save a lot of harm in the community, which is losing $3.2 billion a year on the pokies. So I know others will mention other projects. There's some really good bus projects in here as well, but really hope that all candidates look at this and that we get some commitments and a new government that can step up to the plate and with some dollars to deliver some of these projects.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Lang.
Thank you. Now that I will read all 12 to give them all 12 the same priority, but I just want to say that I truly support all 12 that have been in these papers. Councillors, we've workshopped these. We've had our buy-in. We have looked at the preferences for them. We've talked about the support for them, the reasons for them, and most importantly, we've looked at the public value of them and what impact they will make to our community. So with saying that, the 12 are the bus rapid transit BRT along Doncaster Road corridor, maximise the redevelopment of Doncaster Park and Ride, a bus route to replicate the suburban rail loop or the route of that or the proposal of that, the duplication of Templestowe Road between Templestowe Road and Bridge Street, the upgrade of Jumping Creek Road in Wonga Park, North East Link to fund a pedestrian and cycle grade shared youth path at the Manningham Road and North East Link interchange, increased funding for Parks Victoria to maintain community assets, improvement to the Five Ways intersection, improved sporting facilities for Templestowe College, funding for the Manningham bus shelters, a reduction in the maximum opening hours of pokie machines, and bridges for Yarra River Corridor and Concept Plan. I just want to thank officers for the summary that they gave in the report, a paragraph summary on each one of them, looking at the issue and talking about what the ask was. And I also just say I look forward to their advocacy actions and pamphlets on the priorities that come to light. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Chen.
Thank you. I just want to touch on the public transport elements of the 12 advocacy campaigns priorities. And Madam Mayor, 73% of our residents travel outside Manningham for work. Until now, Manningham is the only municipality in metropolitan Melbourne that does not have tram or train services. It is not surprising that 70% of residents drive to work. And Doncaster Rail Line was first proposed in 1890, but it has never been built. Some students take up to 2 hours and more than 2 bus rides to attend campus for classes. We have long called for rail connections to reduce overcrowding on roads and bus services. The suburban rail loop includes a train service through Doncaster in Stage 2, but Stage 2 is not expected to commence at least until 2030. So Manningham needs a short-term solutions before a train line is built as a matter of urgency. And Council is seeking express bus routes that mirrors suburban rail loop alignment. A key advocacy item for Council to work with SRL Authority, Department of Transport, and tertiary education institutes to implement a new bus route that starts at Monash University and operates express services to Deakin, Box Hill Station, Doncaster, Bulleen, Heidelberg, and La Trobe University, so that jobs and university travel are closer to home. Bus shelter can safeguard the passengers from wind and rain and has a positive impact on the public transport system. Bench seating on the shelter is an important element of our urban open space and serves as a place for resting and social encounters with others. Manningham has about 230 bus shelters, and we have identified another 31 new bus shelters as a priority. So far, we only managed to deliver 6 priority bus shelters. When more individuals opt for public transport to respond to the environmental and fuel cost concerns, we ask the state government to provide funding to install another 25 bus shelters in Manningham. So, of course, there are other 2 important elements, and they are also equally important. So, Manningham residents call for the candidates to listen to the public transport needs and commit to support to better transport in Manningham, public transport. Thank you.
Just in time.
I see you, Jessie.
I didn't want to stop you, Councillor. But yeah, thank you. But you did well on time. Any other speakers? Councillor Lightbody.
I'm really glad that we've settled on these 12 priorities for the upcoming state election, and they're a very broad group of priorities that cover a number of issues. And one I'd just like to bring attention to is the increased funding request for Parks Victoria. And this is sort of tapping into a statewide issue of underfunding for this major government department that looks after a number of our parks across Victoria, but particularly in Manningham. The major parks that come under Parks Victoria are the Westerfolds Park and the Warrandyte State Park. And I think we'll come to another motion later on where we'll discuss some more about Parks Victoria. But something that's really important to highlight is that we have signs in our parks that are hard to read, and historical buildings that are falling apart. And that's all on the state government. We've tried our best in a number of ways to help out the state government fix some of these issues, but what they really need is funding and money into this part of the government so that they can actually take actions to properly maintain our parks and maintain the buildings that are within our parks. So I think it's really good that that's something we're going to be advocating for at this state election, and I think it's an issue that lots of people will see on their daily lives while they're walking the dog or doing their exercise. So I'm really looking forward to hearing what all our candidates have to say about that.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other speakers? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Item 13, Chief Executive Officer. 13.1, Administrative Amendment to Governance Rules. I have a mover.
I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
Councillor Conlon. Seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor Conlon.
Thank you. Yes, I will speak to this. Councillor, this is basically an amendment that's come about as a requirement due to recent changes in local government, amendments to the Local Government Act that have made it clear that our original rules, which had to be supplemented previously, weren't suitable for things like a COVID lockdown. So essentially, you'll see lots of changes in our current rules, basically changing the words in attendance, in the presence of to in attendance, allowing people to attend online. So that's basically facilitating us to be able to have hybrid meetings, full offline or fully here in the chamber as we normally do. So, councillors, there's not much else to say, but it is a requirement of under the state government that we do modify our rules to this for this purpose. So I therefore support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Goff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And this is really getting us up to date with practice that did occur during emergencies with COVID, because we did have online meetings to now being codified in our documents. There's only one other, and that is that we're empowering our CEO to actually do something extra in this particular set, and that is to read out, if the person isn't here, their question, because up until then even though we've been sort of being very gracious, it wasn't within our set of rules. We did read the question out because people got it in and they couldn't attend because of COVID and everything else. So we're now, even if there's attendance here, the question's in so the community can ask those questions, and the question will be asked at the council meeting on their behalf, with the CEO reading it out at all stages. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goff.
Oh, no, well, sorry. I did say thank you. That's all right.
You did say thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Madam Mayor, can I've still got half 30 seconds?
You've got 30 seconds,
Thank
Councillor.
you. No, and look, this is going out for public consultation, so this isn't the final time, so it's going to go out, and I encourage everyone to read through it. And I think it's a great document, and especially the introduction section, which I probably read in detail for the first time, because I've ever only read at extracts and coming out, and usually it's a meeting procedures. So that first little bit of setting the context is really important, and that's worth reading. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Yeah, just picking up Councillor Goff's comment about the CEO reading out the questions. I really do like that, and it's actually been quite relevant for public company AGMs during COVID. It's quite good. I can sit at home and fire off a dozen written questions at an AGM without even getting out of my pyjamas, and the poor old CEO or designated officer has to read them out. And poor old Jerry Harvey got to 22 questions. I think Twiggy Forrest got annoyed at 24 questions, and we have this 2-question limit, so which I strongly support, because no troublemaker should be able to ask many questions at a council meeting, unlike what happens at 70 public AGMs last year and 30 so far this year, as we try and get 100 for the first time, thanks to online questions, which are a wonderful thing.
Right. Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Any other speakers? We'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. Item 13.2, Appointment of Authorised Officers, Planning and Environment Act 1987. Do I have a mover? Councillor Lightbody.
I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Chen. Councillor Lightbody? Councillor Chen? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Item 13.3, Informal Meetings of Councillors. Do I have a mover? Councillor Chen.
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder?
I second the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. I'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Item 13.4, Documents for Sealing.
Yes, I'd like to move that the recommendation be adopted with the addition of the following agreement, and that is the consent to build over an easement agreement under Section 173 of the Planning and Environment Act 1987, Council and D. Paparis and M. Paparis of 58 Polaris Drive, Doncaster East.
Thank you, Councillor Conlon. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lightbody. It's procedural, so we'll put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. Items 14, Notices of Motion 14.1. Notice of motion by Councillor Stephen Mayne, nom 4/2022. Do I have a mover?
I move that the recommendation be adopted.
Councillor, I'll have you read that, please.
As
in the papers?
As in the
Yep,
papers.
okay, as in the papers. No problem, thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Goff. Councillor Mayne, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. So this motion is effectively noting that the 10-year financial plan contemplates there still being a $464,000 cash balance in the old Manningham Recreation Association through for the next 10 years, and requests officers to brief council by November this year on how these funds are intended to be spent in accordance with the 2018 agreement to wind up the Manningham Recreation Association. So the history here, colleagues, is that the old MRA used to manage 7 facilities, recreation facilities, until there was a competitive tender in 2012, which was won by the YMCA. This left these residual funds sitting in the MRA, allocated to the 7 facilities, and I will mention them. So there's the Park Orchards basketball stadium on the primary school. There's the Doncaster badminton just near here, Doncaster Primary, and the Templestowe Heights Primary School basketball facility. So they're the 3 state government primary schools where the MRA used to manage them out of hours and accumulated surplus funds which have been committed to be reinvested into those facilities where the funds were generated from. The 4 council-owned facilities, which are sharing in this 464,000 of residual surplus funds, are Donvale Indoor Sports Centre, the Mullam Tennis Centre or Currawong Tennis Club, the Leeds Street Basketball Facility, and Domini Reserve, the pavilion with the dance school as well at Domini Reserve. So with the MRA having ceased operating a decade ago, it will be good to finally actually distribute the money and spend it on the various stadiums. Some of this may involve just writing a cheque and giving it to the school, but there may be some complexities with this because they are still managed by the YMCA, and we are also going to tender for both Highball and Aquarina in one combined tender, effective starting July 1, 2023. So in my view, it would be good to tidy up this historic arrangement with the MRA before we actually put most of the facilities out to tender. Just a minor historical point, the 2 facilities that weren't in the MRA model were Templestowe Leisure Centre and Sheehan's Road, which were both managed by either the Bulleen Boomers Basketball Club or the Netballers in terms of 50% of TLC. And obviously Mullam Stadium, which was built after MRA was wound up or stopped operating and went to the YMCA in a separate tender, which is also concluding on June 30 next year. The only missing piece in this puzzle is the likes of East Doncaster and Doncaster Secondary College, which have chosen to manage their double court facilities in-house, often doing direct deals with the likes of the Bulleen Boomers and others. And personally, I would love to see them come in with our tender and maximise their financial returns and maximise community utilisation. That's a discussion with those schools that will happen, I presume, in the lead up to the tender. But having a good, clean, tidy up of this MRA structure with funds potentially going to schools and facilities being upgraded, I think would be a nice thing to do in the coming 12 months leading into this very important new tender to maximise management of our mainly highball facilities in the period ahead.
Thank you, Councillor Mayne. Councillor Goff? Nothing to add. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Lang.
Thank you. Look, I don't have much to say because Councillor Stephen Mayne went through it, but I'm just looking forward to the distribution to the participating contributors and having it distributed according to the agreement of the Manningham Recreation Association for their for their facilities to be fit for purpose and for our community benefit. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other speakers? Let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Councillors, item 15, urgent business. 15.1, MAV State Council motions. Mover, please.
Mayor, I move that Council endorses the MAV State Council motions outlined below and submit the motions to the MAV by 16 September 2022. And when I say outline below, here we go. Motion 1, stronger cooperation between councils and Parks Victoria. That the MAV State Council, A, notes with concern the lack of investment and appropriate maintenance of many key assets managed by Parks Victoria, including at a range of state parks and various water-facing facilities such as piers and wharves in Port Phillip Bay and along the Victorian coast. And B, authorises the MAV Board to seek the establishment of a formal MAV Parks Victoria working group or consultative committee to provide a stronger local government voice as the next state government develops the future annual Parks Victoria budgets and work plans. And motion 2, extension of public library hours, reduction of poker machine hours, that the MAV State Council A notes with concerns that Victoria has approximately 500 poker machine venues, which collectively are expected to drain more than $3.2 billion from gamblers in 2022, with many of these losses occurring at unsociable hours because more than 100 of these venues operate the legally maximum 140 hours a week or 20 hours a day. B, contrasts this with the 291 public libraries in Victoria, many of which are open less than 40 hours a week, partly because state government funding of council-owned libraries has steadily fallen to below 20% of the cost, despite the constraints imposed on councils by rate capping over the past 6 years. And C, calls on the next state government to commit to increased public library funding to facilitate an extension of programs such as Libraries After Dark, whilst also reducing pokies operating hours to no more than 18 hours a day, with a mandatory shutdown from 2 a.m. until 8 a.m. each day.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Lightbody. Councillor Mayne, you have the floor.
Well, I think it's fairly self-explanatory. Ties in with our 12-item advocacy report that we discussed and unanimously endorsed earlier this evening. These are pitched at the MAV in a pre-election state council meeting with a view to tapping into a political message that probably hasn't been addressed or hasn't been focused on. So a lot of councils are not happy with Parks Victoria's gross underinvestment, particularly in maintenance. I was talking to Councillor Tom Melican from Banyule, who's our representative on the MAV board for this eastern region, and he was telling me that the budget for the Mayne Yarra Trail through Banyule for maintenance each year is $1,500. And that's basically one little tip truck of gravel once a year. That's it. And I remember walking around Westerfolds during the lockdowns and noticed that the sign saying this playground is closed was an A4 piece of flapping paper. So council was doing sticks and big signs when we were told to lock down our playgrounds, but the budget for Parks Victoria at Westerfolds was 50 cents for a little A4. So everyone who looks at their parks knows that whilst the state government can spend tens of billions of dollars on roads and rail and big shiny infrastructure projects with lots of political gravitas, the core things like decent maintenance of the Warrandyte State Park, of Westerfolds State Park, is just left on the table and missing in action. And there is no formal engagement between the sector, local government sector, and the MAV at the moment. So this will be an opportunity. I'm pretty sure it'll be supported. This will be the whole sector 6 weeks out from an election saying this is unacceptable, we want to be heard and we want you to spend more. On the libraries and the pokies, most libraries are shut on Sundays. Mainly it's because of the union enterprise agreements, which is double time. But I'm not blaming the union for that. That's just a historical fact. And it is so disappointing that if someone needs to get out of the house, the libraries are all shut, but the poker machine venues are all open. And so I think it's quite stunning to see that we've got 200 more poker machine venues than libraries. In Victoria, it should be the reverse. And that the operating hours, the typical pokies venue is open as much as 3 times as long as your typical public library. And we all know the community benefit from libraries versus the disbenefit from the $60 million a year that's lost in the 6 poker machine venues in Manningham alone. So I hope that there'll be some political potency from the wording and the pitching of these 2 motions. I apologise for the fact that those come as urgent, and I should have organised this in time to be in the papers. I appreciate the indulgence of councillors to allow for the urgent and for the officers and for advice on the wording. And the suggestion from Councillor Lang about putting up the Parks Victoria motion. We didn't have any motions at the last MAV State Council a few months ago, so we're overdue to come to the table with something to discuss. And I think these 2 motions are hopefully well pitched to be supported and to have some influence leading into the election.
Thank you, Councillor Stephen Mayne. Councillor Lightbody.
I won't add too much because I already have mentioned Parks Victoria in a previous motion, but I think it is really important that these motions are motions that affect all the councils across Victoria, because these are going to the MAB State Council, which is where we each have representatives, and they will discuss things. So it's important that when us and other councils submit our motions, that they're reflective of the issues that many councils will see. And I'm sure that I'd be very surprised if there was a council in Victoria that didn't have a state park that needed some maintenance, or a building such as Westfolds Manor, or a pier along their foreshore that was in serious disrepair. So I look forward to hearing the results of the debate on these motions from the MAB State Council, and I hope that all the other councils will support these two motions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lightbody. Any speakers against? Any other speakers? Councillor Lang.
Thank you. I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank Councillor Mayne for putting these motions together. You know, councillors, I do often get comments about our state parks, and especially during the last couple of years, it has been very notable because most people have been out and about more than ever, and that seems to have continued in our human practice, that we are now valuing and using our open spaces and parks more and taking pride in them. And that's what our community are asking for. They're asking for our government to take pride in these open spaces that they provide and looking after them, keeping them maintained, having infrastructure like toilets that may be are cleaned and functioning, bins that are emptied, so that we protect the environment, the wildlife and the users. So I really thank Councillor Stephen Mayne for putting the motion to MAV together, and also then going that one step further to look at some sort of community representative group that we can have, where we can work with our state government, because that's ultimately what we want, to be able to bring benefit to our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Any other speakers? Councillor Conlon.
Yeah, I'd also like to throw my support for these motions. I think they're both very worthy in terms of the social harm, as mentioned, regarding poker machines. In regards to Parks Victoria, one of the key potential problems that we have, particularly in our area, is the lack of maintenance leads to potentially more bushfire risk, and I think that can't be understated. So someone needs to start taking responsibility for these things. It's a great start with Parks Victoria, but I do know, I think we as council maintain some other parts of state government responsibility, because we just can't find the right person to come and do it. So I know there's a little triangle down there near the Warrandyte CFA that I think we've taken responsibility for, essentially because we can't get the state government to look after it. So I think it is it's critical that we have clear lines of responsibility for these things, and bushfire in the Warrandyte area, and including Park Orchards and Wonga Park, is a significant and increasing risk due to the climate change, the climate challenges that we have. So I fully endorse this approach. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? That being said, let's put that to a vote. Those in favour? Unanimously carried. Thank you, councillors. Item number 16, councillor reports and question time. Councillors, any questions or reports? Councillor Anna Chen.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And at the last council meeting, I reported that MTF will hold a public transport forum at Melbourne Town Hall on 28th of July. MTF invited 3 heavyweight speakers. They are Honourable Jacinta Allen, Deputy Premier and Minister for Public Transport Infrastructure; Matthew Beck, Opposition Spokesperson for Public Transport Infrastructure; and Sam Hibbins, Greens Public Transport Spokesperson. The event was a great success, and there were a lot of sparks, and attendees were lined up. The attendees lined up for questions, and I managed to ask a question as the last person allowed to ask question I asked the three big speakers about their views about our express bus routes that replicate suburban rail loop as a short-term solution for improved public transport in Manningham. Well, I'm pleased to advise, Madam Mayor, all three speakers supported the initiative. So we need to enhance our advocacy efforts just to ensure this important initiative can be delivered as soon as practicable. Thank you.
Thank you,
Very
Councillor.
positive.
That is excellent report. Like that very much. Any other reports? Councillor Goff.
Madam Mayor, I wasn't going to be speaking on things, but I was prompted by the questions about state government maintenance on our parks, which I wholeheartedly agree with is totally inadequate. But along with that is the poor upkeep of our roads with the potholes, the main roads, which is at a deplorable level throughout not just Manningham, but the metropolitan area of Melbourne. Also the roadside maintenance by those authorities and the median strips in the middle have been disgusting for years and are unkempt. It looks like a fourth world country as you're driving through some parts of Melbourne. And the graffiti, which is not removed at all. And in fact, the freeway, if you drive in the Eastern Freeway, which I had the opportunity to do the other day and then back out again, some of the signs you cannot read because of graffiti. It has been let go and neglected, I dare say, all through COVID, and nothing has caught up. But worse is the maintenance of the roads with the potholes. They're not being maintained. The public infrastructure that is state government owned and controlled is falling to pieces and is not maintained properly, and it is looking very, very bad throughout the area. I did notice that the mowers went out for the first time a month or so ago into some of the streets, but it really isn't up to a standard. And I'm wondering, Madam Mayor, if we could consider in the future or at some stage to write to our local members and write to the government and write and expect, and the departments, to actually say our feelings, because I'm not the only one that's reported everywhere. The maintenance of state government assets is extremely poor.
Thank you, Councillor. And that was time. Certainly we'll take on that feedback, and writing to all, I think, would be, yep, very good. Don't disagree with that at all. Councillor Lang.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I wasn't going to speak either, but Councillor Goff has now prompted me for doing so by bringing that. I just want to say ditto to all of that. I am being constant.
Sorry, Councillor.
The question is, could we please continue, whether it's writing or advocating for the improvement of the potholes, for potholes in our roads. In particular, could we please mention Yarra Road from Ringwood to Warrandyte? If you drive through there, you will see that you take a trip like this and you go like this because of the potholes on Yarra Road, and they are growing. So if we could please mention that road, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lang. Councillor Stephen Mayne.
Mayor, now that we've officially approved our Rec and Sport Advisory Committee, I'll just do a quick around the grounds on some Rec and Sport personnel matters. Congratulations to East Doncaster Football Club for finishing the highest in A grade in the Eastern Footy League. First time ever that Manningham's had 3 clubs in the top division, with Park Gorges and Doncaster also being in the top division, but East Doncaster did the best of the Manningham clubs. Also to the women's footballers, Yarra Valley, as mentioned in the petition, playing at Leeds Street, Marsland, Old Trinity, Donvale and Bulleen Templestowe. Bulleen Templestowe had a runners-up in their first ever senior women's grand final, lost to Melbourne Cricket Club Football Club, the world's biggest sporting club, by 11 points in a tight grand final last Sunday at 9 a.m. Other developments, had a meeting with the new president of Fitzroy Doncaster Cricket Club recently, Matthew Elliott, the former Test opening batsman. So I think we're very lucky to have a former Test cricketer now the volunteer president of our little sporting club just here. Interestingly, none of the players get paid at Fitzroy Doncaster. They all have to pay $600 a year to play, whereas there's probably over 100 footballers getting paid in Manningham, but not one cricketer at our premier cricket team is being paid. Thanks very much to Graham Cook, who did a wonderful 9 years as the president of Fitzroy Doncaster. Has handed over to the Test cricketer Matthew Elliott, who's been backed up by Michael Fletcher as vice president, who is the heart and soul of Box Hill Cricket Club, the powerhouse women's cricket club in Melbourne, the Lanning sisters. He was the president of Box Hill who fended off Jeff Kennett and Hawthorn trying to kick and shut their club down, with the White Horse Mayor using a casting vote to save that cricket club 20 years ago. He's bringing all his skills and knowledge across to back up Matthew Elliott as the new leadership team. And thanks also to Warren Maher, who's done an incredible job running the Boroondara Tennis Centre with 3,500 players a week. He's only got 3 months to go before North East Link shuts down the biggest, most successful tennis centre in the state. And he's a Manningham local who's done a great job for 25 years down there.
Thank you. Great report. Any other councillors? Ooh, that being said, item number 17, confidential reports. And there are no confidential reports. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, the meeting is now closed.